In Barnacles and Bees, we're going to add enemies to our game. Make sure you have your flash drive and your step-by-step project guide ready. In this phase, we're going to create some enemies. We're going to duplicate them. We're going to give them behaviors and deal with their animations. We're going to create something special called Barnacles, and then we're going to create the event that destroys the player when it collides with any of the enemies. So let's get started. In Construct 2, let's go to our Layers tab. Make sure that Game is active and unlocked. Let's add a new object type. Right-click, Insert New Object. We're going to be creating the Barnacle. It's a sprite. Call it Barnacle with capital B. And then Insert. Should go onto the Game layer. This one we're going to do different. We're going to use a sprite strip. Go down to the Animation Frames window and right-click, Import Frames from Sprite Strip. This is the easier way to do animations. Go to the Barnacle graphic. See how there's actually two images in one? When the Import Sprite Strip dialog appears, make sure it knows you have two horizontal cells and one vertical, and replace the entire existing animation. Let's go to our collision polygon. We're going to right-click on the first frame and have it guess the polygon shape. Then right-click and apply this to the entire animation. We're going to do the same thing with the origin point. Let's set the origin point to 33 for X and 75 for Y. In the Image Points dialog, click on Origin and apply to whole animation. This way you don't have to do that for every frame. Click the red X to close. And there is the nasty barnacle. Let's right-click on the barnacle and let's change its default animation. We're going to slow it down, 2 frames per second, and we want it to loop. Let's preview it and see what it looks like. That looks pretty scary. Next, we're going to create a family. Sort of like what we did with solids, but we're going to call it enemies. Right-click Families, Add Family. Put the barnacle in it because it's the only enemy we currently have. Press OK and rename it to Enemies with a capital E. Right now, only the barnacle object type is in our enemies family. Now we're going to take a moment to duplicate our barnacle. Remember, you can use a combination of the grid, Control Drag Release, Control C, Control V to place the barnacles where you want them. This is what I decided upon. Just kind of spread them out all over the place. The barnacles are nasty, but they're not enough. We're going to add a bee who's going to rule the air. Scroll up, go to Object Types. Make sure you're on the Game layer and that it's unlocked. Right-click Object Type, Insert New Object. It's going to be a sprite called B, capital B. Similar to what we did with the barnacle, we're going to load this from a sprite strip. Make sure it's on the Game layer. Right-click, Import Frames from Sprite Strip. Find the B graphic. This is also a 2x1. 2x1, and replace entire existing animation. Same thing here. We're going to set its collision polygon. What defines the collision boundary? Right-click, guess. Right-click, apply to whole animation. Now let's set the image origin point. It's going to be 47 for X, 36 for Y. Let's go back, make sure you have that image point window. Right-click on the origin and apply to whole animation. So there's our B. And we're going to animate that as well. Go to Edit Animations and let's change the properties. We're dealing with the default animation. The speed is okay, but we want it to loop. We're going to preview it. Looks pretty good. Let's close that out. And let's assign the B to our newly created Enemies family. Remember, families allow us to deal with object types all the same, to group them together. makes our code easier to write, etc. Put the B in the enemy's family. Our Bs are going to move up and down and side to side using multiple sign behaviors. So go back up, select B, right-click Behaviors. We're going to add 2 sign behaviors. Scroll down under Movements and choose Sign. The first one's going to be called B side to side using upper camel case, no spaces. This is going to be the sign behavior that goes left to right. Let's add another one. Scroll down under Movements, choose Sign, and let's rename this one B up down. This is the one that we'll set to have vertical movement. We can click the red X to close. Now we have behavior properties to set. For B side to side, we're going to keep it horizontal. We're going to give it a period of 8. We're going to introduce some randomness. For period random, let's make it 15. Period offset, nothing. Period offset random, 5. Magnitude, still 50 pixels. Magnitude random, 15. B up down, we need to make sure to change the movement to vertical. And we're going to give it a period of 8, period random of 15, magnitude of just 25, and magnitude random of 5. This is going to give our B the appearance of random movement. Now go back and take a moment, Control drag release, Control C, Control V, and duplicate your Bs. This is what I settled with. Bs just kind of spread out everywhere. Next thing we're going to do, make sure game is active and unlocked. We're going to add a new object type. We're going to call it Particles. It's a new plugin for us. Particles are things that are used to simulate explosions. We're going to set this outside of the layout because these are objects we're going to create programmatically. Go to your Assets folder and you're going to choose Particles. And close. We need to set the properties of particles. Particles are things that take a tiny little image and make numbers of copies of them, spray them around. It's pretty cool. So for rate, we're going to give it 150. The spray cone is 360 because we want them to spray 360 degrees around. For type, 1 shot. For speed, 180. Size, 48. Growth rate, -25. X randomizer is going to be 5. Y randomizer is going to be 5. And under particle lifetime, gravity 75. And timeout 1.5. Particles are things that you're going to spawn in your code. And what they do is they create bunches of these stars. Let's go to the player. We're going to create a new image point using the Set Origin and Images Points dialog. We know about the origin point. We need to create a new image point. We're going to call it Particles. Click the plus, rename image point 1 to Particles with a capital P. And let's give it the position of the direct middle of our player. 43 for our X coordinate, 59 for the Y coordinate. This is the image point where we're going to spawn our particles. Our particle stars are going to simulate the player exploding when it collides with an enemy. That's something, however, that we need to do in our code. So we're going to go to the start and end level event sheet because a player colliding with an enemy can end a level. Click Add Event. The event we want to create is the player. When it on collision with another object, anything in the enemy's group, we're going to add action. What do we want to happen? Well, the first thing we want to do is destroy the alien. So choose the alien, and then under miscellaneous, find destroy. The next thing we want to do is spawn our particles. So go to player and choose spawn another object. What are we going to spawn? Particles. We're going to spawn them on the layer where the player is. So you can use one of the player's properties. type player and then dot. Choose layer name. And then the image point is going to be that particles image point we just created. This is where we want our particles to spawn. And done. The next thing we want to happen, we want to destroy the player. Go to player and choose the destroy action under miscellaneous. And just like if the player is successful, we want to wait 3 seconds. Go to system, wait 3.0, and we're going to restart the layout. System, and under general, restart layout. Take this event block that can end the level and move it to be the top inside of the end of level event group. Once again, when the player collides with enemies, we're going to destroy it, spawn particles, and we're going to restart the game. That's what we're doing here. Let's go back to level 1 and let's make sure that our alien is at the top of the Z order. We want it to be on top. We're not concerned with the player, we're concerned with the alien, the visual representation of the player. Put that at the top of the game layer. Remember, Z is our 3rd dimension. Let's play the game. What happens when I collide with an enemy? It should destroy me and spawn those particles. Pretty cool, right? If I collide with a B, same thing. Let's make sure we save our project.